president of the Washington Square Association as long as I can remember. I always thought that there was a better way for them to kind of increase their audience, and I just kind of looked through their eyes about what they were doing to get the word out. And that's one of the reasons I started NearSeg, which is a hyperlocal news and events platform, which hopefully some of you guys have checked out. And so, I think this is a really interesting time for local organizations to actually be able to use technology to find a greater voice in politics, as we find our media shying away from local coverage, from community board meetings, from what's going on in the neighborhood, from, we were talking about earlier about the preservation of the East Village and NYU 2031. And there's not really a lot of coverage of that type of stuff. And so it's incumbent on local organizations to be able to find that voice and to get it out there, to build their own constituency, to find power in the new kind of media structure. And so we've assembled a fantastic panel that I'm really excited about. So actually, is somebody, was I supposed to get a clicker for the slides? Or, no? No? Great, we're on the run. So a fantastic panel of people who are doing it successfully, I hope, and who also hopefully have made mistakes that we can learn from. We've certainly made mistakes at NearSeg that we've learned from as well. Let me go one by one, and I was hoping that you guys could kind of go introduce yourself and explain kind of who you are, who your organization is, and kind of like a 1-minute intro about what you guys are all about. Starting, you've done yours.
All right, this is on? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jennifer Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the Flatiron 23rd Street Partnership, which is a business improvement district located in, obviously, the Flatiron District. We have been around for 5 years. We have, in the last 2 years, really increased our use of social media. We came on Facebook and Twitter about 2 years ago, and I have been blogging for NearSeg since February. And that's the extent of our social media, so we certainly can talk about, and our Director of Marketing is here, Eric Zaretsky, so if I look up at the audience and say, Eric, what do you think? That's who I'm talking to. But we've found it very successful, and we found it very challenging, and we were talking a little bit before about some of the challenges with small organizations, so I think it's a good dialogue to have tonight. So, great.
Hi, my name is Ryan Daly. I work for the Fashion Center Bid. I'm the community liaison. Sorry, this title's a little bit made up, so I'm making it wrong. And social media manager. It's a little made up because social media really has been a focus for us. About a year ago, someone said to me, hey, I don't really like doing our Facebook. Do you want to do it for us? And I said, okay. We had 100 followers, and we didn't even, they said, you should start a Twitter too. So I've basically been learning as I've been going for about a little over a year now. So, but it's proven to be pretty good for us. I've screwed up a few times, so it should be a pretty interesting discussion.
This should be good.
Hi, I'm Tricia Lewis. I'm Director of Digital Media at the 34th Street Partnership. I started Fashion Herald, a blog that's all about retail and shopping on 34th Street in Midtown Manhattan. And I started that in 2007. I also managed the digital media, social media for Bryant Park Corporation, and now just recently a small district that we manage in Chelsea. And we're a nonprofit business improvement district, same as Jennifer provider. And yeah, we've had a lot of different experiences, so I'm excited to share a lot of those with you.
Hi, I'm Tamara Greenfield. I'm the Executive Director of Fourth Arts Block, or FAB. We are a cultural district in the East Village, but we now serve as sort of a hub for a growing community of artists and arts organizations in the East Village and Lower East Side. I started about 5 years ago, and there was no media, social media, or web presence fairly for FAB when I started, and I was lucky enough to hire a very young, quick person who was able to get us up and running on social media pretty quickly, and before a lot of people that we worked with were doing it. So it's ended up becoming something where FAB has a lot of different media channels that we use to promote the different kinds of partnerships and arts organizations that we work with, and then use that also as an opportunity to train and cultivate the skills and abilities of the groups that we work with, so that they start to also have the ability to do the same kind of marketing.
Okay, I'm Sean Newport. I work under Tamara at Fourth Arts Block for Fab. I'm not so young and not so quick as Lauren, who I played every place a couple of weeks ago. Had a bit of a baptism of fire, including this event. Hopefully I'll have something constructive to contribute. But yeah, I'm going to basically talk about some of the plans that I have, what I've observed so far, and how just in a very short period of time we increased our, I want to say, productivity by about 50%. And hopefully that might be some insights to follow. Fingers crossed. Thanks.
Great, excellent. So those are our panels. Just a quick word, about me and Nearsay. I promise this is the only kind of self-promoting thing that I'll do here. I founded a website called Nearsay. It's a hyperlocal news and events platform that basically curates the best of New York Times, New York Mag, Daily Candy Earth, Curve Direct Eater, local blogs like Evie Grieve, and brings you all the news in your neighborhood. We're the largest publisher in every neighborhood that we've gone into. We have 8 neighborhoods in New York City: Upper West Side, Upper East Side, East Village, and Lower East Side. But what's really interesting about us in this context of this conversation is we provide the ability for local organizations to publish directly to Nearsay, as if you had your own column on New York Times or New York Mag, but obviously we're not that big. We only have 125,000 readers in Manhattan, but it's about 10% of Manhattan. And we make it easy to publish to Twitter and Facebook and let people follow you so that every time you publish, they get an email or those type of things. And so we've signed up a lot of local organizations and people like the Manhattan Borough President, Andrew Berman of the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation, the Hudson Square Bid, and a variety of people on our panel, and you can do the reading on the slide. So as I said, this is an issue near and dear to my heart. Now, you'll see me look at my phone routinely throughout this discussion. It's not that I'm bored or texting my girlfriend. It is just that, to me, I live online. And I no longer really get paper. I barely open my mail. And so if you want to reach me, you're going to reach me on this device, or via email, or via Twitter, or via the blog, or via something like this. And so my notes for this panel are on my phone, but this is a lesson that for a lot of organizations who are trying to, reach a greater audience, it's not going to be by sending mailers. It's not going to be by sending postcards. It's going to be on the web. And so we're going to discuss a couple different tools and what people are doing and how they're doing it successfully, and hopefully, some learning moments about mistakes that we've made. So with that, I'll look at my phone. And so we'd love to hear a little bit about what are the tools that you guys use? So there's like Twitter, there's Facebook, there's blogs, there's Nearsay, there's email lists, and those type of things. What tools do you use? Because a lot of organizations don't have a lot of staff, right? You guys are, who here's overstaffed? Anyone? Right? Okay, so nobody's overstaffed. Everybody's understaffed. So you got to make some choices. What are the tools that you use, and what are the tools that you'll never give up?
Well, Landmark West, I think that this is just about as much as we can get our hands on. As soon as we really realize how powerful tweeting on Twitter, Facebook, our blog, how that would really expand our reach, we just launch ourselves into it 100%. And as much as those things can help one another and one builds on the other, we found that to be incredibly helpful as well. One of the first times we actually used Twitter, I would say, that was incredibly successful for us was probably starting back in October, November. We used Twitter to help promote a funding campaign that we were doing. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with the website Kickstarter, which was an opportunity for us to fund an iPhone walking tour app.
So hold on. If you mention technology, you might have to explain it. So,
for sure.
So Kickstarter is a website where you put up a project and say, hey, I'm trying to raise money for X, Y, or Z, and it gets basically promoted to a bunch of people, and if enough money gets raised, everybody collects, and then the money's funded. It's a fundraising mechanism, and maybe something interesting for some of your local community organizations. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. And I think that one of the reasons it was so important for us that we were able to recognize that as a tool was because Twitter allowed us to broadcast that and fund a project that was so important to us to be part of, the cutting edge of technology to get the Upper West Side accessible to people on the West Side, but maybe who don't want to sign up for a walking tour, but we want this history to be accessible, and people who aren't even on the West Side. By using Twitter, by using Facebook to encourage people to check out this funding project and to contribute, whether it's $1 or $10 or $200, all of that made a difference. And we were able to raise almost $3,500 through that project, which was not all of the money we needed, but a significant chunk. So for us, it was our first real campaign on Twitter and on Kickstarter, and a huge success.
So to summarize, you raised $3,500 by writing 140 characters at a time?
We made an amazing slideshow that you should go watch on Kickstarter, and then just encourage people to get inspired by what we were doing. And actually since then, the project is still living on Kickstarter. People can still check into it as much as they want. We tweet about it here and there. And we still get people calling us, emailing us, tweeting us saying, I'm in Baltimore, I'm in Florida, we're having, a historic, downtown month. And we want to talk about how this can work for us. How did you do it? How did you make it work for you? And how did you get people to care and talk about it? So it's something that has stayed on people's minds. And it's been downloaded all over the country, all over the world. I think the only continents we're missing are Antarctica and Africa. So if you know anybody in those places, you should tell them about it. Help us conquer a little bit further.
Great.
I'll just quickly mention, for those of you who aren't familiar with what business improvement districts do, a lot of what we do is promotion of our neighborhood and the businesses within our neighborhood. Our marketing efforts are twofold. So we're marketing and promoting what we do as an organization to our members who are basically paying for us to exist in the neighborhood, but also this promotion of the businesses. So one of our core things, and where we started with a website, of course everyone has a website, but we try to house a great deal of information on our website, a district directory, neighborhood news, and all of those things. And when we started to add some of these other tools, we were doing it in part to continue to drive traffic to the website. So website being the central source of information, and then started to branch out and use Facebook to supplement what we were doing on the website, and also to do some additional things like post party pictures and things like that you might not put on your static website, but you can put on Facebook, and it's kind of a fun, your followers like to see more content and more detail. And then with Twitter, which probably has been the more challenging thing for us, which I can talk about later, we wanted to continue to try to promote things that were going on in the neighborhood and the businesses through the Twitter feed. So we're definitely tweeting things about us and what we're doing, but we're also trying to tweet, for instance, if a new business opens, because of what we do in the district, we want our followers in the neighborhood and beyond to know that, Italy's opened, or, another restaurant, and to try to get that out there. So we've sort of built on the basis of the website and used these other tools. Nearsay is interesting because it's more content focused, and I've actually probably gotten more, just kind of proactive calls from people in the neighborhood who have seen me on Nearsay. Businesses.
I did not prompt that.
No, I told you I'm kind of lucky, but nobody asked me to. But it's interesting how it's manifested itself compared to some of the other tools, because I think because they're extensive articles and not just quicker sort of short content, that I've gotten more calls from businesses in the neighborhood that have said, oh, I loved what you did about such and such. Would you come and write an article? But we also have a very extensive electronic newsletter. We never did a print newsletter because even 5 years ago when we started, we knew that something like that would be obsolete, basically, and that it would be outdated the second we printed it, and printing costs are very high, so we do a lot of our electronic information through the newsletter, and we have 12,000 followers, so we spend a lot of time trying to build that up too. But I feel like all of the things work together, and they're reaching in many ways different pockets of our audience and our members.
So I've heard a couple of really interesting things on that. One is, using social networks to ping people with stuff that may not, live forever on your website, like, event photos, but are nice to ping people with and just keep them up to date and push stuff to. And then the other thing I heard is that different channels reach different audiences, and you have to use a bunch of them. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we felt, you know, when we started, you guys might agree with me, I feel like in business improvement district world, around 2 years ago, it kind of became obvious that it was like everyone's doing it, we should do it, let's do it, should we do it, you know, so I think there was a point in time probably within about, you know, maybe a year range where our types of organizations were getting onto those things and it became very obvious that, you know, you should do it because it's the right thing to do, basically. And everyone has websites, obviously, but it's opened the door to some different things for us. You guys want
Anybody else want to chime in, or I mean, we don't have to go in order. You guys can like get all spontaneous.
We the Fashion Center bid. We really use only the Facebook and Twitter right now. If I can think of a good use for Foursquare, I personally don't see a good use for Foursquare, but I'm sure there are ones out there. There are ones out there, yes. But really, when we started, one of the things I wanted to do was, as Jennifer was saying, just reach out and find out which of our constituents in our neighborhood and what businesses use Twitter and Facebook, just so we can have a better relationship and we can spread the word about what they're doing and keep in contact with them. Because even then, it's hard to do, and we generally don't get a lot of response to things that are mailed out. We still are in the Stone Age and mail out newsletters every time. I mean, we send out way too much mail and spend a lot of money on it. But
So that's an important point. Like,
yeah,
the difference in cost. Mailer. What's postage now?
44 cents.
Well, I have no. I couldn't tell you what postage is. I couldn't even tell you what it was 5 years ago.
I could probably tell you how much a flat envelope will cost if you tell me the weight. That's how much. Yeah, if you want to send out our annual report in a flat envelope, it will cost you $1.68. So, and we sent out 400 of them. Yeah. But I think we've gotten a better response from things. Even a couple of months ago, we had our annual meeting, and I have no hard evidence to prove this, but you know, it's been a year since we really started tweeting and using Facebook a lot, and this had to be the most people that showed up at our annual meeting, and I was pushing it pretty hardcore on social media. And another thing really that it's benefited, a couple of months ago, I was speaking to Jerry at our office, who Jennifer knows very well, and I said, wouldn't it be great, because it's the fashion district, and there's a lot of, you know, emerging designers who really no one's ever heard of, and I think I just saw this Center for the Urban Future said that there are 40,000 designers in New York, which is far, far ahead of, I think it's Los Angeles. So we said maybe we can start some kind of a group, like a networking support group, and let them know the services that our neighborhood provides, and he said, that's great, go do it. So I used Facebook, and I said, if there are any designers who want to start a group. So now, because of that, and what, you know, you contact one, and then someone retweets it, and something. We have over 40 people, 40 designers in this group, which is really surprising considering the first meeting we had 2 people. But through that promoting and mentioning it on Twitter and getting people to retweet it, and just the community of it's almost like tapping into the designer community. And we were able to use it to kind of squeeze our way in there and make ourselves known, and then it just kind of spreads the word around itself.
And that was a Facebook group?
Well, it started out on Facebook, but then since then on Twitter, really whenever I mention that we have a meeting, I'll get 3 or 4 phone calls saying, what is this? Well, how can I join? What can I be a part of it? So it's been really, really helpful for us as far as that goes.
I mean, we've seen a similar point, you know, with Meetup. Meetup is a great way to organize people. That's how we organized this. And similarly, our first meetup had 5 people. I think this is our 6th meetup, and we have 300 members in our group, and it just grows organically. Did you have a question? I'll repeat it.
But our people with a desire to learn. Can you differentiate for us what's the difference between this website page, how you use Facebook differently, what does it serve you, how you use Twitter? We know of course where it is, but I don't know how it fits into this. What you say sounds like Lowdown, New York, do you know that?
Yes, very similarly.
Which is
while they're the local news organization that covers the news, we actually empower local organizations to speak for themselves. So that's a good question. So let's take a step back. Twitter's great. Facebook's great. What are these things? And I'm actually going to start it with just a quick question, because my head of products asked me a question: what websites do I like? And I'm a tech guy, computer science degree, the whole thing. And I really couldn't answer his question. And I realized all of a sudden, I don't go to websites anymore, which is really interesting. Everything gets pushed to me. So how many people here, raise your hand if you're a member of a community organization? Okay, great. How many of you guys have a website? How many of you guys have Twitter? Okay, that's pretty good. How many of you guys regularly publish to a blog 3 times a week? All right, it's thinning out a little bit. So thinking, how many people have regularly go to 10 websites that they love and know off the top of their head in this audience? Really? Did you go regularly?
Yeah.
Websites that you go regularly, like I only go to New York Times, Google, and Facebook. Those are the only ones I'll actually go to. If somebody sends me an article to go somewhere, I might go to a lot of different places.
We could find out so much about
I breathe hearsay. I have it in my dreams. No, RSS is getting pushed to you and then you going. So as an example, so I think this is a good question. A lot of people put up a website and say, okay, we've got a website, we're on the internet. Is that enough? Did you guys start there? And what differences have you seen? And also, if you're willing to divulge numbers, how many people really go to your website?
Yeah, I would say if you use the analogy that if you think of your website as like your home, and you are putting together the home that you want to present to everyone, but people have to come there. So if you want to actually get people to come to your home, you have to go find them where they are, not expect them to just find you. So you're going to Twitter because that's where people are. You're going to Facebook because that's where people are. And then you're talking to them where they are. So you're going to, the park, or you're going to the mall to talk to people. And then you're hoping that you can bring them to see more about you in a forum that you've presented. I mean, that's just one way of thinking about it. So your website is can be, and I think probably all of our organizations are sort of similar in this way, in that we're working with a whole network of other organizations or businesses or whoever. So we're trying to showcase a lot of different information about a lot of different groups, but people only are going to find us if they're actually looking for that for us, really. So we have to go find them.
So do people regularly show up to your home without being invited?
Yeah, they do, because we try to do good search engine optimization, which is a whole other thing. So basically, we're trying to have it so that if anyone searches for arts, East Village, blah, 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 they're going to find us. And we're going to be on the top of their searches. And I'm sure that's probably true for businesses in the areas that you're working in. So it's whenever somebody goes out and they're like, I want to know what's happening in the East Village, we want them to find us. And then our site is going to have all that information, and we want to be a go-to place. Also, artists who are looking for spaces to rent, or they want to know what theaters are available or whatever, they'll find us. So we have a lot of artists who find us, but in terms of audiences, we have to do a lot more work to find them.
Google East Village Arts, you will pull up that as your website.
Our website, and we also have a blog, which is called East Village Arts.
And that'll be a separate.
Yes, that's a separate. It's a blog that connects to our website. So you go to and we just actually did that. I mean, the first thing I did when I started 5 years ago was buy eastvillagearts.org, and then we never really used it that well, except as a redirect. But now we use it as a blog. We have East Village Eats, East Village Arts, and Pride Goes East as 3 separate blogs that we operate that are all kind of connected.
And then will East Village Facebook on Facebook come up?
Not yet.
Well, I didn't really hear the question, sorry.
So will you show up on Facebook when people search for East Village Arts.
I think for us at Landmark Quest, one of the things that we found is that our website is great to put the things that aren't going to change for our organization over time. Because we found that for us that we're lucky that we do have somebody on staff who just by chance kind of knows his way around, all these fancy websites, design things like Dreamweaver and I don't even know what else. But whenever we go in there, we usually muck it up pretty good. So it's better if we try not to be constantly making our website adjust every time there's a small, if there's an event or if there's an advocacy issue, that we want that to have a place on our website. We found that using the blog and using social media has been so much more efficient for us to have things be so timely, so that it's something that is so user-friendly. We can, put the photos, we can direct people to petitions, we can tell them exactly where they need to be and when, and we don't have to constantly be going in such a highly technical way in code and things like that. It's so much more effective for us, we found, with the blog.
Can you characterize the audience you're aiming at on these different vehicles, or is it just saturating and getting as many people no matter what?
So the question is, what audiences are you targeting across the different internet tools that you guys use?
Well, yeah, I can speak to that. I'd also like to say I love to do this summary because we talk about this all the time in my group. Is what do we use, which platform, what do we use for? Our website is where we have our official information, our hours. Okay, I'm going to use Bryant Park as an example because Bryant Park website and the Facebook and Twitter have been around longer and have more followers. The Bryant Park website has the hours information, the company information, our bid information, and events, and that's huge. Our Facebook page, who our person developed fantastically, is really a place for fans of Bryant Park to come, comment, post pictures, talk about their experience, ask questions. The Twitter for Bryant Park is a place where our Bryant Park person sends out daily updates. Hey, there's yoga in the park today, there's this in the park today. It's more of a, and it's also, what I use it for is sort of a personality to talk to people and reach out to other people and really start a conversation online. It's sort of, and I use it for mundane daily things, not too much, but I also use it for, there's a sale on Gap, or I found a great pair of shoes. So I don't know if that helps you, but that's really, I think, important. And the blog, the blog I do daily posts, and that's really where I consider the blog kind of like a mini website. It's doing our company goal. It's going after what we want our company to do, but it's doing it on a daily basis, and it's doing miniature little conversational descriptions, really minute details.
So I thought one of the really interesting things that you said there, among many, is the notion that you start conversations on these social networks. At a previous meetup, we had somebody who said that Twitter was the lure of fishing, and you catch the fish and then you put it in your bucket, whether it's Facebook or your website or your email list. But what Twitter lets you do is you could search on Twitter for everybody's talk. I'm going to take a random thing because I read about it on Nearsay. The whole artist in residence issue in Soho. If you guys are familiar with that, there's a big revisit about all these people who are not really artists living in Soho and breaking the laws and whether they should change laws, et cetera, et cetera. You could search on Twitter for everybody who's talking about that issue, and you could go talk to them. Admittedly, 140 characters at a time, but you could start engaging them and say, hey, I'm having a meeting about this. Would you like to come? Hey, I really like, we're raising funds for this. Hey, did you know your representative doesn't support this or does support this? You can do that because that allows you to get in the conversation. And so that's what I thought, was one of the things that you really hit on, which is you can use these to start conversations and proactively build relationships that a website just doesn't do. A website, you just wait for them to come.
You sort of just hit on this.
And by the way, we're going to have a good 30-minute Q&A session at the end of it. So,
you sort of just hit on this, the notion of not having redundancy across platforms. And I guess I was told by a corporate social media marketer, have a reason someone wants to come to both your Facebook and your Twitter. Other people will post the exact same content, and for an organization that maybe has a limited amount of content, what would you say the importance of putting that content as far and wide as you can, or having unique types on each?
It's a great question. How do the media differ, and do you post the same stuff across all of them?
I'm going to give this one a go. Okay. When I'm thinking about Twitter, I like to think about it with this phrase in mind. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. We'll see what happens. If someone pays attention to it, if somebody doesn't pay attention to it. But it's a matter of freeing that thought and point of expression. Just getting it out, chatting with my neighbor. If I go to the coffee shop and say, oh yeah, I'm working on this thing. That kind of stuff all goes on Twitter. What's different between Twitter and Facebook, I'm less compromising, I'm less willing to waste my time with idle chatter, quote unquote, on Facebook. It's kind of a base for me. So I put up what I would classify as information and communications that I want to temporarily store. So you know how when you come home and you put your keys like on the desk, or you know there's a spot where you're always going to pick something up, you've got like a notepad, you know, that's your notepad spot. That's kind of how I use Facebook. And the website is my trunk. That's where I know where all that old junk is, all that old safe information is not moving. That's my jewelry box. It's got all my members' information. That's kind of how I stagger it out. So for example, I wouldn't necessarily post photos or show post photos on Twitter in the same way that I wouldn't show my, my cousin's christening to the lady in the coffee shop. It's just not going to happen. But I might invite her to look at my Facebook where all those photos are. If she's really interested, she can go and have a look at the website and come home and see my whole family albums. That's kind of the way I conceptualize it for myself. I don't know if anyone else.
No, you had mentioned something about engaging people to participate in your Facebook, which
which is huge, and it's really great when you have people come and visit, and then they go home, and then somebody from Germany posts on your Facebook. Here's a picture of the park. I had a wonderful time. I can't wait to come back next year. I mean, that's really to us what it's all about. It's really knowing that people are out there, and then also they post things like, why is the ice skating rink closed in January? Get rid of those fashion people. We just want to skate until March. Sorry. But one thing I would like to say, I think it's great that you brought up the corporate social media people. I would say be very, listen, but don't toe the line with the corporate social media people because it's corporate. And we have smaller organizations and we don't have the manpower or the time. I think it's perfectly okay to set up your Facebook so if you post to your blog, it automatically, your blog feed goes into your Facebook. I find that my audience on Facebook is very different from Twitter, and you can cross-post. I don't think you should cross-post everything the same, but I do think it's perfectly all right for a small organization to spread it out, the same message if it's important to you, to put it on different platforms. You can say it in different ways or have a different photo. I think that's fine because we're not corporate, and the corporate experts, and what is a social media expert? That's also in question these days. Soon, I mean, it's a whole thing. But who really knows how to do it? It's really getting out there and starting and seeing what works for you and for your business.
Actually, it's interesting just the kind of analogy, Sean, that you were doing with kind of Twitter, and it gets kind of more permanent and personal as you go to your static blog. So I'm just curious to know if other people feel the same way, that it can go from a small mention on Twitter and then some more on Facebook and then even more on your website or your blog. But do you ever feel that the flow goes the other direction, that if someone has the interest in your blog or your website, that you can get them to pay attention to your Facebook and then get them to then make the transition to Twitter? I ask because we have networked our Twitter, our Facebook, and our blog. So especially on Facebook, when we tweet and when we post on our blog, it all comes to Facebook. And not too much, but I've definitely gotten people who follow us on Facebook, but only there say, what's all this stuff? There's just all this stuff on your page. And my hope is that they would look into that stuff and start following us on Twitter. And I'm just wondering if you think that that's a successful thing, a successful strategy, or in your experience, maybe not so much.
I can say that last year we had this really big event for us where it was called Sidewalk Catwalk, and we sent out all these mannequins to 30 designers, and then It was like the cows. Remember when they painted the cows? But we sent it to fashion designers, and then they put on these clothes that were all weatherproof. We left them on Broadway for the whole summer. And one of the things that came out of that, I noticed, is we set up a website for that specifically, and a lot of people wound up following us on Twitter. And like when that ended, the amount of people, during the summer while the mannequins were out, our likes on Facebook were skyrocketing. And then I had to deal with a few weeks of depression when I noticed that we would get like 2 people a week after that. So it must have been the mannequins, but it was all coming from people searching for it and finding the website and then hitting the 2 little buttons. Other than that, I mean, I couldn't really tell, but that was the most significant thing I've noticed, the instance I've noticed where the website directed people to the other social media.